Okay. Welcome to the June 18th edition of Thursdays with Mike. We have to get this going because the Fever are playing tonight, and we all have priorities, and I know what Mike's are. So anyhow, hi Mike.
Good evening, Steve. Forgive me for wanting to follow the fever.
Oh,
That I believe is the Caitlin Clark effect, right? I think anybody who wants to bemoan her or diss her or whatever. We were talking about that at coffee this morning, and I was reminded, or I commented, somebody really agreed. The Caitlin Clark effect is real, and high water floats all boats.
yeah. Look, what's interesting is I'm very active on Twitter more than I should be, and before her epic game-winning shot a couple of week was it just a week ago? Anyhow,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
were people on Twitter commenting about how she's going to get traded away and she's in it only for herself, and that like she was getting dissed big time on Twitter. And then she had that phenomenal game-winning shot, and then everything went silent. And so, which I'm always appreciate when somebody has performance that speaks so good that even the haters can't hate anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And she shares. I think I look at the number of assists that she has.
Right,
She
right,
is not a ball hawk.
right.
She likes to take her shots, but she's not unwilling to pass it to somebody else. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Fever plays tonight in a little while.
Okay.
Well, they're playing
Um,
right now. I'm going to watch in a little while.
Tonight's topic is discussing editing. I'm gonna let you define the topic because I know where I want to go with this, but I want you to define what the topic is. Go.
Well, we're looking at the role of an editor in making a movie and the role of a director in shaping a play. And we talked also a little bit about, the play director is tied to the script uh, for copyright reasons pretty tightly. So, there are different mediums, different modes, and different things that happen. A play director often has a vision for the play. He wants to emphasize a particular theme, perhaps. Then you get into ones where I just heard him talking about. There's a lot of Shakespeare happening in Iowa this summer. That's summer theater, outdoor theater events in Des Moines or wherever. And somebody is doing, I can't remember which play. They're doing a Midsummer Night's Dream outdoors, which they said was very appropriate. They're doing something and they're setting it in 1930s America. And it's like, so you've got a concept, and they commented. Some people maybe will not like seeing the play not done, in Shakespearean costume, Shakespearean era costume. That when you modernize it, then that's a real director's concept, trying to maybe make something more contemporary or reemphasize the universality or the timelessness of a particular play that had happened then and told the story. It can happen and tell the same story in the 30s. Sometimes they do modern dress and it can tell the same story today. And you can apply, what you're seeing in today's environment to that. I'm kind of a traditionalist. There's a lot of concern with the Oklahoma that was revived, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago I, in New York. I'm not sure if it was the Lincoln Center. Uh, very different approach, very different. Uh, Used, like contemporary country music kind of band rather than traditional orchestration. I think they did a transgender character in there. Talked to some friends who are, good theater folk. They saw it and hated it, absolutely hated it. Not for the transgender thing, just hated the whole production. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of a traditionalist. I didn't see it. I'm probably a traditionalist that would not have liked it a whole lot. I don't know. I didn't see it, so I don't know. I talked to a former student and his husband, Matt, who just directed uh, Noises Off at Community Theater at Cedar Rapids. Matt's a fabulous director, I think, for a young man. Uh, he and Ash saw it and loved it. So just different reactions, when people start to play with those kinds of things. It's interesting. And and a director, then I think what's the director's role? Perhaps not only maybe the message and what it's going to emphasize, but also the pacing of the show and so forth. And I think that's where the editor starts to work in the movie, right? Is how am I going to pace this scene? How am I going to pace the show? Is it going to be slow? Is it going to be fast? Where do I have it fast? Where do I have it slow? I don't know. What do you want to talk about in terms of your
Well, I
view of the
mean,
role of the movie editor?
okay, what made me bring up the movie editor comment was the fact that when Marcia Lucas passed away, there was quite a bit of discussion that the only reason we all know Star Wars is because of her edit. That the movie that George had made was not that good. And like multiple people, Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, they've all chimed in that it wasn't that good. That it was her edit, like the whole ending third of the movie, the third act didn't exist. It just had them go off and blow up the Death Star. It didn't, and so it was her thing that made it a we need to do this quickly or they're going to kill all the rebels. That was her, not George at all. And so,
That's the whole uh, chase to get the bomb dropped at the right place, and
right,
that whole editing sequence.
right. And so, I mean, so arguably, she totally flipped the movie around. So in the play world, when somebody does Midsummer Night's Dream, do they have the freedom to change the words to modern English to make it more accessible? Like if they're doing 30s, can they change the words to have 30s vernacular, or are they
Well,
tied to keeping Shakespearean language?
because it's no longer copyrighted. It's out of copyright.
Oh, so Shakespeare you can do whatever you want with because it's out of copyright.
I think, it's no longer copyrighted. So you can, I would think, because I'm not a lawyer. We talked a little bit about
Mhm.
copyright and current things, but I think you could do anything with it. Um, maybe it's what expectations people bring to it. What do they expect to see and hear? That might impact that as well. Certainly, you can change the time, the costumes, the staging, think of the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet. Did you see that?
Yes.
The Zeffirelli one became kind of the standard, but in Zeffirelli's, and I'm not totally familiar with it, but when I was in college, actually, one of our directors at UNI, Terry Williams, staged that, and he used the Zeffirelli script. You could buy it in a paperback book, and that's the script that he used. He didn't have to pay royalty to anybody. Well, I don't know that I know of. Maybe he did because Zeffirelli may have held a copyright on that. But one thing Zeffirelli did, he wrote Paris out of the whole end of it as a character.
Mm.
He's gone, and he's gone at the end of that. So that was a change that he made in that.
Look.
Leonardo,
I read Romeo and Juliet when I was like in eighth grade before I had any of you anyhow. And I thought I understood it, but I didn't even pick up the fact that they had slept together. So I obviously was missing some really big plot points.
maybe you were just age appropriate at that time. Probably not the same truth
I
today, but
yeah.
at the time, innocence is kind of lost.
The
But if you
following
said
year,
to
the
Leonardo,
following year, I'm in Elaine Conrad's class, and we're doing that play in Elaine's class, and I'm like, oh, I kind of missed a
oh,
big point.
So you did it in both eighth grade and ninth grade?
No, I did an eighth grade on my own. I was a geek.
Oh, you read
I
it on your own.
I read it on my own, and I just didn't.
Okay.
I that's the only point I missed. I got everything else right, but I really did not pick up the fact that they consummated their relationship. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet, which they use guns and kind of
Yeah.
futuristic fighting and so forth, they didn't use swords. One scene that totally came alive for me in that production, and again, its interpretation is that the scene between Capulet and the nurse, where he yells at her a whole lot, they played Capulet drunk, and that scene totally came alive for me because it gave him a much deeper motivation to be so violent and nasty with the nurse, which is a wonderful
Ah.
character to play. So if you think about that, or if you see it again, or have, if that triggers the memory of what happened in that scene, or you happen to go look it up, look at that scene, and all of a sudden, oh, what a great choice, because it makes perfect sense why he's doing what he's doing, and gives him a reason to take it to the nth degree in a choice that the actor makes. It's like I saw production, when you talk about the director's role, I saw a production of Our Town down in the Village in New York, and it was just an amazing production. Ken Dingledine, who worked for Samuel French at that time, invited me, Don Carruthers, I can't remember who else was with us, that were from the Educational Theater Association office in New York. He took us down to see this production. It was a delight, and it was done very traditionally, with just chairs and no concern about costumes. It's a scale downward where it focuses solely on the word and the action, and not on great sets and extravagant sets and staging in that manner, except for one thing. It was done in a theater that was an old gym, so it had kind of a balcony. The chairs for the audience were kind of tiered like 2 or 3 steps at the edges of what would have been the gym floor. The stage was in the middle. At one end, Simon Stinson did the choir up in this balcony, like where what you weren't there. You might remember some old gyms had a balcony for a band, maybe over
Sure.
one of the
Yeah,
baskets.
yeah.
That's where Simon Stinson did the whole thing with the choir. Very interesting choice to use the space. Didn't change the play, didn't make it any more. It made it a bit more realistic, but didn't add, heavy set, except for one scene. And the scene that Emily goes back at the play and remembers and talks to her mama and says, "Oh, mama, look at me." One end of the stage had a black curtain in front of it. At that scene, Emily walks that curtain, pulls it open, and back there is a realistic kitchen of the time. Her father comes through the door, snow on his coat. I mean, everything is real, costumes. The kicker was, it was if mother was making breakfast and you could smell the bacon cooking when she pulled that curtain open.
Wow.
Totally opposite of what the rest of the play had been, but for me, really punched up that scene and brought it to life in a very special way. Enough of me talking about
You
directors,
when I ran the props for Grease, I don't think we had the budget for that.
we didn't have budget for much of anything. Thanks to Carl Harder, we had a golf cart that we kind of made
Oh
into
yeah,
the.
the
It was
car was
like
awesome. I didn't know that was Carl Harder. That's awesome. That's good to know.
Carl Harder, yeah, yeah.
That's good to know.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I'll talk. Let me mention one play that
yeah.
that I saw as a director vision in terms of what I brought to the play. When we did Jesus Christ Superstar at Benton Community, I just heard him talking at a conference or something I was at about using erosion cloth, which erosion cloth, I don't think you see it anymore, was something they used in highway construction to put down on places where they cleared off the landscape. It was like, think of burlap bags, only the burlap is like the size of your thumb, around, woven. The netting is very wide, and they would lay that over grass seed so it didn't erode,
Right, right.
or
Yeah,
lay
yeah.
it on a
Yeah,
hillside.
yeah.
So I got a roll of erosion cloth, and I made that drape at the top of the set and just let it kind of hang down and be netting. And then we took willow branches and made a circle and put a cross in the middle of it and had some of that hanging. And then
Hmm.
we had platforms on the set, and through all the platform bracing, I honestly had kids that were on detention get in there with baling twine and just weave it back and forth around in there. And that whole thing for me was a metaphor for the play of that is Fishers of Men. It was all these nettings to catch things. And that was something that, did the audience see it? I don't know. But as a director, that was how I kind of unified that whole thing of creating a visual metaphor, if you would, for part of the play. Hey,
Yeah,
talk to me about
you did
editing.
that play the same year that I read Romeo and Juliet, and so I can confess I did not see it, but also I didn't get the fact that Romeo and Juliet slept together. So, obviously I was not the most observant. I'm not the most observant eighth grader out there. So
You just want to be a weatherman at that time, and that's
yeah, at
perfectly
that
okay.
time I wanted a future. I wanted a future working in weather. So yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, at that time, I still thought I could have had a chance at the Air Force. I didn't know that my bad eyes screwed me on that. Um,
Mhm.
but okay. S What's interesting to me is that if I were in your shoes, I would want to direct plays like Shakespeare's plays because you do have way more freedom. Do you like did that go into any of your choices of selection because of the because obviously if you have to be 100% copyright word thing because I again Grease is the only one I really remember working intensely with you whatever and you had to change the word rubber whatever you had to change that um did it make would it does that affect your choice?
Well, yeah, I think appropriateness. Is it going to be appropriate for my audience? Are they going, is it inappropriate, appropriate for the age group I'm working with? Uh, how far do I push it? And in fact, I don't think we changed the word rubber. I think use balloons was in the script. I do remember one thing we changed, and that was when Kaniki says to Rizzo, not you got knocked up. We just said, I heard about you. It kind of tamed it down. You know, legal? No, but something that we did.
Well,
I
I
guess when I was directing, I tried to find quality shows, not not some of the really cheap comedic stuff that you can get from that's I hate to disparage plays, but there are some that are just don't have a whole lot of literary merit. I tried to avoid that and find shows that were basically good shows, things out of the canon, not always large cast, because that was a side effect. But choose shows that I thought I could cast. You don't choose a
right,
show that there's no way I can find a person to play this character.
right.
Um,
Well, and you
so does that mean you're pre-casting? Maybe to a degree, but you're willing to be surprised. You're willing to be this. You know that you can get it done.
yeah, and yeah, and again going back to Greece, I do remember that the person who cast as Rizzo shocked everyone. I don't remember I can't even remember her name, but she was excellent. Like you obviously saw something in her that the rest of us who she was like new to Benton community. I don't know, I don't remember, and again, I just don't can't even remember her name, but wow, she was great as Rizzo.
Yeah,
So
I can't remember the name of who played Sandy, but Sandy was kind of a stretch for her because she was out of the religious right, and Sandy, toward the end gets to be, she goes to the side of
right.
Rizzo and all of a sudden takes on that
But we joked
character.
about that. I mean, that was that we all knew that and we joked about that. But she was a good Sandy. And so there's no that there was that was also fine. But it was the Rizzo one was the one that surprised us when it was cast. The rest of them didn't. And again, whoever you were a great Rizzo. I do remember that.
And I don't remember.
Yeah.
Too many plays, too many characters. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Okay. I think we've killed
What,
this
what,
topic. Anything else you want
oh,
to
well, I was
add
going to say,
before?
what other shows, what other movies do you think an editor had a terrific effect on?
Well, because I'm enough of a geek that I watch all the science fiction shows I watch, I know what the original version was versus what we ended up seeing, whatever. And so, like, one of my all-time favorite movies that anyhow, Aliens, the second one, um, the original one, what they originally had planned kind of sucked. And what ended up going up on the screen, so it changed from the writing to what they actually shot, and then in the editing they cut out a whole bunch of absolutely useless material that they now on YouTube you can go and see all the cuttage, all the stuff they cut, and it's like, oh, thank God they cut it. I don't think I would even like the movie if they'd added all this other stuff in. So so editing really can have a huge impact.
Well,
Um,
you watch movies today, and a long shot may be 8 seconds long. I mean, if you count seconds, a lot of shots are 2 to 3 seconds long, and then they go to
mhm.
another shot, and then another shot, and then another shot. An 8 second shot is very long, really slows the pace down. So if somebody wants to find out what that's like, is go back and watch a movie like The Birds,
Right.
Hitchcock, or Psycho, which are classic films. But by today's standards, the pace is absolutely deadly because they move so slowly. What something made the birds popular. So when Caitlin, our youngest daughter, we were living in Ohio, she was in school, something came up. Maybe there was a remake of the birds or whatever. So we pulled or Psycho, maybe it was a remake of Psycho. So we pulled the old one up and started to watch it on TV. And it's like, I can't watch this. It's just too slow, too boring.
I'd say that
You
the old thing I watched more recently to rewatch whatever was Casablanca, and I was shocked that I loved it more when I watched it a year
Now,
ago than I did when I first saw it. Um,
sometimes it's just appreciations that happen too.
yeah, I'm like,
You appreciate,
wow,
yeah.
damn, that was a good movie. So yeah. Oh, I don't want to be remiss on this. I want to wish you and Linda a happy anniversary. Um, that's a you.
Oh, you are breaking up.
I, I'm just wishing you and Linda a happy anniversary.
Thank you. You're breaking up. Am I coming through?
You're coming through just fine.
Thank you.
It is
Yeah,
saying our
53.
connection is unstable, but I don't know if it's on my end or
Oh,
your
okay.
end.
You're frozen. I can hear your voice, but your video.
I'm going to just cut my camera then.
Must be on
So
your end.
it'll just so that should make things better. I just want to I with the camera off, the one thing I wanted to show was my mother's diary. So for a little bit of anyhow, to end, we want to end with a little bit of discussion of things that we find interesting. So today is Friday in my world, and I know from my mother's diary that is today, June 19th, 1987, when I just graduated from high school, was the first time I met Joe Biden. And it's because it's in Mom's diary. I have absolutely no memory of meeting him, but I do know that he gave me,
Wow.
because where I do remember meeting him was later in the summer, because they gave, at the first meeting, they gave me a backstage pass for the thing that they had in the summer, the cattle call, where all the candidates came out. And at that event, I was not impressed with Joe Biden at all. It was Mike Dukakis that I was impressed with, and so I was happy when he dropped out a little bit later, and I was able to support Dukakis. So that's one. Second, your friend Steve is now Twitter buddies with Mike Lindell, who is the leader of the Republican. He's leading the pack of the Republicans, and he is so recent poll came out. He is going to make Minnesota great again, and he has absolutely no chance of winning. And that's why I love to be his friend, because there's no way he's going to beat Amy Klobuchar, but I want him to be the Republican nominee. That I'm very happy about that.
You mean the My Pillow guy? He's
The,
a whack job.
yeah, the My Pillow guy.
Jack Patty.
Yeah, the My Pillow guy is leading all polls in Minnesota. There you go.
But is that all in the Republicans
Yeah, for the
against?
Republican nomination.
Okay.
He's going up against Amy Klobuchar, who's got 65% approval. He's not going to win he's not going to win. He's not going to become governor. You don't go from 65% approval to losing. She's going to be the next governor. But I like Mike. How can you not like Mike? He's fun. So that's my
Well, until you hear him talk politics, but that's okay. I guess
well,
that's something I admire you, Steve. I admire in you. I'm a little more judgmental, I guess. I do admire you in that. You got a cocktail
that
coffee
was my cocktail
time?
chatter.
Oh, was that it?
Letting you know that I met Joe Biden, whatever, and I'm friends with Mike Lindell. That he and I are sending DMs with each other. I mean,
Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. Little does he know. I don't know. I bet he's looked you up.
so
I can't
give us a
imagine he hasn't checked
non-political
out.
one. That's how we'll end this. Your cocktail chatter.
Oh, well, I was just going to say one of my favorite pictures is one when Joe Biden was running for president and he stopped here in Manchester and I was able to ask him a question and got a picture taken with him. So sometime on Facebook ago, that was my wallpaper picture, whatever, my featured picture was Joe Biden and me chatting when he was in town. So,
Yep.
and today Rob Sand was in town talking politics. I did not get to go. Lyndon had an appointment in Cedar Rapids to go to, so I didn't go get to see Rob Sand, but he's an interesting guy because one of the first things he says when he talks, he's running as a Democrat, but he says, I hate the two-party system.
Right.
And he's absolutely upfront with that, that he registered first as an independent. He kind of liked the Democrats on environment and something else, which is a little strange because his money, I believe, is family money from his wife, and they're big farmers, and there's a lot of controversy, of course, about farmers and runoff and so forth, polluting the streams of Iowa, the pristine streams of Iowa. Anyway, enough
Yeah. No,
political chatter to end with.
I fully support Rob Sand. I'm really happy. I'm happy he's our nominee. I'm happy. I'm as an Iowa Democrat, and again, I spent years of my life as county chair in Benton County. I really do care about this stuff. I feel as good as I've felt in at least a decade. So yeah. So
From
yay.
your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's a wonderful place to end the recording. Bye
Have a
for
good
now.
one. Bye.